Hey everyone, how's it going? Back here with another draft walkthrough. Recently had a really fun one, and one that I thought was a great example of kind of finding a game plan through the draft and then sort of making your picks accordingly, and wanted to go over it. And then if you guys have thoughts too, feel free to comment or send me a message, and I'd be interested to hear what everyone has to say too. So I think it was this one here. Yeah. And we'll turn off show picks just so that if you want, you're welcome to pause at any point and think about what you would do from each of the packs. So pack one here, we're super lucky. We opened Sheoldred, which, I mean, clearly is the auto pick, but still useful to analyze the rest of the pack to know kind of what to expect for the people sitting to our left and what things we might be able to do from the wheel. So taking the Sheoldred, probably the next best card in the pack, I think, is maybe Tribute. So also in black, so it is maybe kind of going to put the person to our left in black, but that's not like a super strong signal or something, especially with a rare missing. Splatter Goblin is playable too if we can pick it up on the wheel. And I also know this Shore Up, which may come back to us as well. So it was actually already from pick one, pack one. I have this plan where Sheoldred and Shore Up, you can kind of just combo and win the game, I feel like, because Sheoldred is a very unique type of bomb in that you can just play it, never do anything, and just win the game, right? Because it's almost impossible to race. If you have card draw, you gain more life, and so forth. And yeah, it can swing if you need it to, or enter combat. But really, if it just exists, eventually you win. And so I have this idea about this Sheoldred Shore Up plan, maybe on the wheel as well. So here, taking the Sheoldred and then moving on. From this one, I noticed a couple things. So firstly, the rare is missing. We don't see that much about color preferences from what was taken in front of us. But then here already I'm thinking about this Scry 2. The second I pick up a card that's extremely high impact relative to either the rest of the cards in my deck or in the format, I start to really value card selection a lot higher. Especially for a bomb of this magnitude, when you have something that you can just play and win, then the value in finding that one specific card goes up massively. So Librarian is already not the pick here because it's not nearly on the tier of, let's say, Lookout, but something that I'm looking to wheel and something that I'm very willing to play in this deck. So here I'm looking at this pack. I think I'm taking Lookout out of this just as the best card. I already mentioned that I kind of want to be on the Shore Up plan if I can. That'd be cool. And so here I'm going to go ahead and take the Lookout. Some other things to notice. If the Coral Colony wheels, probably not because people love walls. But it can sort of be in the same game plan because it's a defensive 2-drop. You don't need it to necessarily mill, although, I mean, if you can get in the walls deck, we've all seen that it can get pretty busted. But yeah, so I think I'm on Lookout here. From here, decent number of playables. I'm thinking probably the best cards among this pack are some combination of maybe Blightwall, but probably not objectively like by itself. Soul Tender, Vine Wall if you're in the multicolor piles, Arrest if you're in white. And so looking at this, it's kind of an interesting pick, and really depends on what I'm planning to do. And so what I end up doing is I think that I want to go with the Blight pile here because it supports what I'm already doing in that it's a defensive 2-drop. There is an outside chance that I wheel the mill wall, so there's maybe some outs to like a mini wall theme, although I'm not looking to be the walls deck probably. But yeah, it's defensive 2-drop, which I feel like I'm going to need given my first 2 picks. Soul Tender I actually really like a lot. But also I think that sometimes it can wheel because people undervalue this card in my opinion. I think it's great. I think that a lot of decks want to run it, especially decks that are more 2-color themed, where you don't run the risk of milling like your splash lands. And I like Vine Wall a lot too, but I'm not in green at the moment. And I have pretty heavy mana requirements in double blue and double black already. And I don't know how much I want to be venturing off into the kind of domain piles where you have a bunch of, different splash lands. So I think I just want consistency. The argument for Soul Tender, I think, is largely that one of the upsides that I think people don't realize is because it mills 3 and incidentally also gets cards back from the yard, when you do have really high value targets like Sheoldred, it does serve as a way to more consistently get those creatures back, which is, I think, a very strong argument for maybe taking it here. But I ended up going with the Blight Pile here. And then moving here, I think this is an easy Essence Scatter. This card's really good. In blue-black, I think it's pretty much what you want to be doing on your 2-drop slot, and sometimes elsewise as well. It gets Instants in the Yard for Tolarian Terror, which I think is a really good blue-black control card, where you're just playing like counterspell, removal spell, and eventually you land a Terror and you just win. So that said, though, I think that if I'm not doing exactly that, right, then Essence Scatter is always good, and Tolarian Terror is usually good, but a little bit less so, in the sense of, like, I'm just always going to want it, whereas Essence Scatter, if I'm playing, like, a blue-black control list, and I very much want to be in black, then yeah, I think I'm just always running basically every Essence Scatter I can get. Here, this is a really late Fires. I notice here that there's not too much for us as far as like blue and black. I like Espionage, but I think that Fires is on a whole nother tier of card, and I don't mind splashing it. I get the kicker already if I'm in blue, and it's just, you know, a fair bit better than anything else I have available, so I'm going to go ahead and pick it up. Here, so I'm happy to be seeing some black cards. Conscript and Rager, both pretty solid. I actually think that Conscript is better than Rager, and I think that you see these go around the table a lot later than they should in a lot of drafts, because I think there have been versions of this card that have not been good. In fact, most of the versions of this card have not been good in draft. But this one can block. It's fairly cheap to recur. It comes back to play, not to your hand. Like, yeah, this card is quite good if anyone wasn't aware. And there's actually a game I'm going to show after this from this draft that kind of showcases exactly why Conscript is very good. Also, something to consider with Conscript, specifically being coming down on 1 mana, tapped or not, can be really nice in decks with the Essence Scatters, where your plan is to leave up counters, because consider the scenario: you go turn 1 Conscript, and you're, let's say, on the draw, right? And your opponent goes turn 2 2/2, maybe like a Root Wall or something. Well, normally the cost of holding up Essence Scatter is you're getting hit. So if they either play around it by not playing into it, or even if they do play into it, you're still taking damage while you hold up that mana. Having a 2-power 1-drop come down, especially one that they don't want to be trading for, means you're not taking that damage, and that can be a really big deal in like the more controlling lists. So that said, I'm on Conscript here. I do like Rager, and I think that if there was like nothing for us in the pack, the even land is defensible here. But I think that Conscript is actively something I'd like in the deck. Okay, for this one, we had mentioned earlier about the Librarian. And again, I'm not really giving up too much here. I do think that there are some versions, especially out of the sideboard, where Mind Rot is a playable card in this format. It's not like something you're always going to want, but it's not awful. But that said, I think I'm on Librarian for all the reasons we mentioned. It is colorless, so if I do end up with less than optimal mana, you know, being able to always play it, it fixes for you, and it digs to my good cards, so I'm just going to pick one up here. And then here, kind of on the same situation, I wouldn't mind another Librarian, but given that I have this Fires, I think it's a higher priority. So here I'm going to be taking the blue-red land just to fix, since I already have something that I want it for. So picking this up. And here's our original pack. Notice that the Shore Up did wheel, which is awesome. The black cards are missing, which we kind of suspected would happen. And so here, I'm just happy to pick up the Shore Up. I don't know who's taking Foundry or Founding over Shore Up, or Drake, or really these cards also. But I'm pretty happy to pick it up. It's on plan with what I'm doing, and I'd already mentioned that having this kind of mini combo of Shore Up Sheoldred is something that I'm interested in having. So, continuing on, here, not too much for us. Nothing really in our colors. I'm not looking to Meteorite, and I mentioned that I don't mind mine are out of the board sometimes. I don't think I'm going to play it, but I'll pick it up also just to cut the black card. Here, Vinewall Wield. I don't think I want any of these cards, and my idea, so I think I'm picking between these two just because this one is the best card, and if somehow I end up in some weird green deck, then, you know, having access to one is certainly better than not. And also I was thinking that if I end up wanting multiple color stuff, like I probably don't want this in my current version at a glance, and if I end up in some multicolor pile somehow, then I probably would rather just have the Vine Wall in the majority of those decks anyways than the Mana Worker. So I just pick it because it's a better card mostly. Here, again, another Librarian. Why not? I already mentioned I like what it does in the deck, and I'm not giving up anything to grab it. Sideboard Broken Wings again if I end up in green, which I probably will not, and then this thing. All right, so pack 2. Here we're looking at another Blight Pile, Vortex, Impulse. I noticed there is an Academy Wall here, which again is on plan with some of the stuff I was talking about, like you land a defensive creature. It works well while you're attacking in the air or with Sheoldred, just waiting it out, and it can dig to your good cards as well. And it has a discard ability, which I'd like to maybe pick up, like, what is it called? Urborg Repossession at some point, which is nice, and the discards work with the Conscript. So there's actually some real value to be had here, but in the end, Vortex is too good. I'm already mostly in blue-black. Even though I didn't see a lot of black pack 1, there was a late Conscript and that Phyrexian Rager, and then also, I mean, I have a Sheoldred, right? So I'm incentivized to really commit to black unless I absolutely can't, and I don't think that's the case here. So here I'm taking the Vortex is just too good, but I do notice the existence of the wall and the Impulse, which again also helps dig to the Sheoldred. All right, pack 2 here. Nothing too exciting, but I do have this Repossession, which I'd mentioned. I do want to pick it up. It's similarly to how Shore Up combos with Sheoldred, so does Repossession, because if they kill it, you just get it back. And again, as long as it sticks, you're going to have a really hard time losing that game. Here, again, I'm in blue-black. This does everything I've been wanting it to do. It loots. You can loot away the Conscript, which is great. It digs to Sheoldred. It's a 2-drop. You can gain some life off of it. It can recur your removal spells like a Vortex or something. Again, it kind of just does everything that I want to be doing. Really happy to pick it up. And this, I think, was a really interesting pick. So here, I think the quote-unquote like obvious pick is probably another Repossession, because again, all the reasons we talked about the first Repossession, and it's just a generically good card. It gains life, so forth. There's also Librarian, which we can use. We talked about that one already, right? We know why we would want that. But then there's also this Walking Bulwark. So I ended up grabbing this speculatively because two things. First of all, when you have these kind of controlling decks, which is kind of where I'd like to be headed, again, I don't know 100% that's where I'm at yet, but like with Essence Scatters and just like card draw Repossession, where I'm looking to be doing something bigger, if I end up there, sometimes in those decks, you give up a little bit of kind of win equity by being unable to pressure your opponent. So everyone knows like some percentage of the games you or your opponent is going to be mana screwed or flooded, and you won't, they won't be able to do things. And by not being able to pressure, you give up some win percentage in the games where you would have beaten them before they draw out of it. And so this was more kind of a testing idea where like I wanted to see, first of all the discussions we had with Conscript being a 1-drop all apply to Walking Bulwark as well, right? They hold off the defense while you have your Essence Scatter up, so having kind of an inevitable win con means that I can maybe get away with having something less impactful, as long as it facilitates my game plan. And as we mentioned then, if you can use it as a means of pressure early, then maybe you can kind of recoup some of that win percentage that you sometimes give up by playing really control-y decks. And again, the flip side of that, of course, is if you're playing a really long game, maybe you don't need to be pressuring when you have Sheoldred for all the reasons we talked about. But I wanted to try it out, and also when I picked this, I was thinking about that Academy Wall from the first pack, that if it wheels, Walking Ballista Academy Wall is a real combo, provided you do want both cards in your deck independently, sort of. I guess independent is maybe a little disingenuous for the Bulwark, because you do want other things to run it, but like if you want the Academy Wall anyways, and we talked about the reasons why it would be good outside the context of the Bulwark, then I think it's defensible. And if I can pick up like another Essence Scatter or two, I can have this just very defensive oriented deck where I'm like just scrying cards and trying to get to Sheoldred, and using that along with the Shore Up and the Repossession as my win con. So I end up taking the Bulwark here, partially for science and partially because I do think it makes sense with the wall on the wheel and the things that we were looking for here. Here, easiest Essence Scatter ever for me. Again, I love Wrath, but I'm not looking to actively splash, especially when I am giving up something good to take it. And again, the activability isn't great when I'm not on a heavy white. And also, Terror I like, but I don't think I need, right? I think that Sheoldred is good enough. I'm going to be pretty good at finding it. Lookout can apply pressure in the air. I have ways to generate value. Like, I don't think that I need the Terror, even though I'd be happy to pick it up if there was one in a pack with a blank. But I like Essence Scatter. It's good on my curve, and it serves as a means of like kind of removal. I'll be looking to pick up some instant speed, like card value, maybe Shadow's Prophecy or something like that. Here, not too much in our colors. Pilfer, I think, can be a fine sideboard card, but I'm not really looking to play it. I think it gets more defensible too if you have like Tolarian Terrors, which we've seen a couple, but we've passed. And so I'm just going to be taking the land here. Again, I'm looking to splash this Fires, and being able to fix my mana through my mana base is pretty nice. So we'll do that. Again, talking about these things going late, people, I think some people haven't gotten the memo. It's just a good card. Happy to pick it up here. Again, I like Soul Tender, but not over Conscript. So here, okay, so here I ended up taking this Saga. I don't think I'm ever really playing it, even with what I had here. Confession, I thought that it was rare and worth 20 gems, and I was not really paying attention. The actual correct pick, given this is best of three, is Negate, because there really are some cards that you want to be negating in the format, like Elder Dragon or Herd Migration, stuff like that, that are non-creature threats. And so I'm pretty sure Negate is the pick here. But anyways, we took this. So here, interestingly enough, Academy Wall and Impulse both wheeling. And the Impulse is really tempting for the same reasons we talked about the Librarian being good. And in fact, it might even be the correct pick, but I kind of wanted to try out this kind of Bulwark Academy Wall thing. I haven't done it before, and I thought that it might be something that's worth learning about. And like I said, it's not a huge disaster. Like, let's say I'm missing an Impulse. I have enough playables. I have other good ways to scry. Impulse pretty good with Essence Scatter, though. So I think this is probably the correct pick, but I wanted to try this, so I went with the Wall. And then from here, just picking up Pilfer for the sideboard we mentioned. Not much for me here. I don't remember what I picked here, but I know I didn't play it. Maybe the Wall or something. Yeah, sure. I guess in case I end up opening some incredible white splash and some like a Chaplain or something. But even then, I'm not sure that I would go that route. Here, again, third Librarian, just reading all the books. And then Mind Rot, and here we go. So here, kind of an interesting one. I don't really have great fixing except for my Scries, which I think contribute to my fixing. But it's not great, but Namada is really good, right? So this is kind of where things get interesting for us. This black-green land might wheel, because we've seen some of the lands come around pretty late, which means maybe this table doesn't value them as highly, which kind of makes me lean towards picking the Namada. Just for a reference, if I go back to like here, right, so red-white land, pick 8. There were 3 lands in the pack over here in pick 6, and I didn't remember specifically these things, but I did remember the idea that I was seeing lands come around pretty late, which made me feel like there's a chance that's non-zero that I get this back. Again, Soul Tender is nice, but I already have my 3-drop is pretty full with things to do, and I do want a Shadow Prophecy, but again, I don't think I need it. Again, I have Scries, which is not card advantage in the sense of like Shadow Prophecy drawing cards, but at the same time, it doesn't cost me life, it affects the board, and again, the main idea is just to go deeper in my deck, not necessarily to win on like just a raw number of cards. So I end up taking the Namada here. I think it's kind of too good to pass, given that I have outs to fix my mana maybe. Here, so this is interesting. I think a lot of people sometimes see cards that are very good, like Brawler, and they see, oh yeah, and I'm planning to play that color anyways, so I'll pick the good card. But Brawler is very much not what my deck needs to be doing. Like, I don't need to pressure that early. Having outs to do it is nice, but not at the cost of my mana. Playing another off-color card, and also the fact that, I mean, might not even pressure that hard if I can't follow it up with other things. Like, I'm going to curve a Brawler into Librarian or something, and then probably get blanked by like a 4/4, right? So again, I'm not looking to play this, even though it is a great card, kind of objectively. It's not what I'm looking to do in my deck. I'll just take another Essence Scatter and counter everything. Here, looking at these, there's not much for me in blue and black. I'm not really looking to venture into green. I don't want this. I don't want this. And so I think I ended up taking just the Grotto here. I'm not really splashing anything white as far as I saw. But the Grotto can help pay the kicker on on Repossession. It can help me cast the Namada, can kind of help with the fires occasionally. So I think it's fine. And also the Scry, again, digging to Sheoldred, every bit of card, kind of card selection adds up, right? When you have a card that's just kind of like the just absolute greatest bomb, right? And again, I think this deck is a very extreme example of that. With your average, like, hey, this card is well above rate, it's a bomb, but it's not like I just win the game, right? Then maybe you don't lean that far into that. But with Sheoldred in particular, I feel like it's good enough that just card selection will be enough to win a lot of games. So I get to here, and so in blue and black, I don't really need Drake. I'm not looking to pressure, and I don't think that hitting for 2 a turn in the air is really going to be where my deck is shining or where it wins. I think I'm choosing between Soul Tender and Rager, the factors for me that contribute to the decision. Rager costs me a life, but it draws me a card, right? And drawing me a card is just card advantage that I don't have to pay any more for, whereas Soul Tender is technically a 2-for-1, but also it costs mana to facilitate that, right? A lot of mana. So there's upsides to Rager in that sense. But also for Soul Tender, and there's also a downside to Soul Tender a little bit, in that I likely am splashing both red and green, and I always am a little bit careful with how I build my mana bases when I play Soul Tender decks, because you can mill your splash lands and things can get a little awkward there. Again, you can also not mill your splash lands and be more likely to draw them, right? So it's not like it's an objective, like, hey, never play Soul Tender if you're splashing, but it is something that I like to consider. But also the flip side of that, if I play Academy Wall, I'm definitely playing this Vohar. Being able to discard it is another form of card advantage because you can get it back. And I have one particular target that it both digs me for, and if I can get back Sheoldred again, that's huge. I know it's kind of the reoccurring theme of everything we're doing. But again, I think it speaks to the strength of having a plan, a specific plan in mind when you're building your deck. So that said, here I'm taking the Soul Tender. I think that its upsides outweigh its downsides. And so I think that I want to over the Rager in this instance. Here, really late Tatiova. This card's ridiculous, but I can't cast it. And I'm really happy to just pick up a black-green land here, right? It's going to help me cast the Namada, help me kick the Repossession. So pretty nice to pick up. Here, basically same exact thing. Black-green land. Here, Shore Up number 2 is awesome, right? Again, Sheoldred is the plan. And so when I get to here, pick 8. I think I'm just taking Vivisector. Again, more card selection. It comes down on 2, keeps me alive. Just in general, something, it contributes to my game plan and is something I want, and I'm not giving up too much for it. Actually, I don't know if I took this Vivisector. I might have taken the blue-red land. I know I ended up with a Vivisector, so that's why I thought I took it here, but then I noticed this one. If I were to make this pick right now, I think I would take the blue-red land, just because I'd rather have good mana than one extra 2-drop, even though I like the scrying of this. But I guess we'll find out when we go to the next pick. What'd I get? Oh, I took the Vivisector. All right. Yeah, I think I would have taken the blue-red land had I had a do-over there. But I do think it's kind of close, because Vivisector is, like I said, pretty on plan for us. Here, the black-green land did not wheel, but I'm okay to take a Shadow Prophecy. Again, digs deeper. I now at least have red and green in my deck, so I mean, it gives me more selection as well. And I have 3 Essence Scatters, so instant speed card draw is pretty nice. Here, I don't mind this card as much as in the beginning of the format. I thought it was like kind of meh, like I wouldn't really play it or start it in a lot of my decks. But one thing I started to notice is, like, for example, with like things that sometimes are expensive ways to pull ahead, like Soul Tender gets you ahead on cards, but it costs 5 mana to bring something back, right? And just having like a 1 mana thing to play early, or have the threat of the activation to keep them out of combat, can be really nice while you're spending your mana doing other things. So I think in some decks, especially if I don't have like a huge like amount of removal, that this is a really okay piece to include. The way I think about this, the more removal I have, the less likely I am to main Battlefly Swarm, because I don't need it as much when I can interact. But when I can't interact, it holds the fort really well. And here, my removal situation, I have like a Vortex and Essence Scatters. If you want to count them, they're not quite removal, but they can serve a similar purpose depending on how your game set up. But otherwise, not that much. So I think I'll take this, and I might even start it. Here, I don't want any of these cards, except this Outrider is way too late, right? I mean, this card is very good. I'm on 4 colors now, and I'm already kind of playing red. I don't have a lot of top end. I mean, I'm not playing this, so I have basically 2 4-drops. So while I am leaning really hard on this Sheoldred plan, I kind of want some other outs as well. So I end up taking the Outrider, and I think I'm going to play that one. Impede Momentum, I think, is playable to sometimes even good if you're in like the heavy tempo decks like blue-red, just mono 2-drops. Hopefully have the good ones and you just tap something down and it's Doomblade. But until then, or in other shells, I think it's not as good. And here, despite the Scry, it's not something I'm really looking to do. And then here, just some things I'm not going to end up playing. So to take a look at the deck, we ended up over here. I ended up cutting the wall package, right? I kind of assessed that I would rather have these guys on 3 mana than this wall. And if I wasn't playing this wall, then this wall became a lot worse. Because again, with one of the big things is like hitting for 5 is a lot. But I don't want to be paying 2 mana early game. It occurred to me too that maybe my thinking of this initially was flawed when I was deck building, because yes, I can pressure, but let's say I don't know that they're stuck on lands yet. Let's say it's early and they're on 2 land drops, right? I'm never going to pay 2 and swing with this when most of my games are going to involve holding up Essence Scatter, right? And even then, it's a little risky to just tap out main phase for this, and I decided that it was kind of an error in judgment. So as much as I wanted to try it, and as much as I might want to take back on this pick and get the impulse again, in hindsight, acknowledging I probably made a mistake there, I ended up cutting it and not running it in the deck, despite the fact that I think that some of the arguments for it were decent, but I don't think it's where I wanted to be. So that's it for the draft portion. This is what the deck looks like, and kind of how I built it. If you guys want to stick around, there are 2 games I'm going to show. One that really demonstrates the power of the conscripts and sort of how they interact, and one that shows this concept of like digging to Sheoldred, working out with a little bit of luck from me, and sort of the power of just landing it and having it stick. So looking over here, the first one is this game. So here I'm on the draw, I think. Let me check. Yeah, so I'm going to be on the draw against this like Naya splashing black kind of aggressive pile. Here I have this 1-lander. I don't think I can keep it even with the conscript. So I throw this back. Here, decision, put back the shore up. I'd rather just have a creature curve and then try and like prolong the game, scry to something good, and see what happens. As much as I like the shore up with the Sheoldred, I don't have the Sheoldred at the moment. I don't know that I'm going to get to 5 mana to hold them both up in the same turn. So yeah, it's low priority for me. So here, Conscript, Rootwalla. So this is that interaction we talked about earlier, right? From here, I can hold up Essence Scatter and not be taking damage from the Rootwalla, which is nice. Instead, though, I play out the Blight Pile. And so here, this is a little bit of matchup information. I think in a lot of situations, I would hold up the Essence Scatter, but I'd seen from them, I'm not especially afraid of their 2 and 3 drops. I'd much rather keep up Essence Scatter later on in the game. And I want to take the opportunity now when they're not going to do something as threatening to land the Blight Pile, so it'll be up later. So again, but just the comment on what we talked about, in the dark, I could hold up Essence Scatter here and be completely safe and not be taking damage. I'll even send for 2 because no one ever wants to trade for this, and for good reason. Here, they make it a 3-3. Still don't want to trade with the Blight Pile, no problem. Now I'm just on Essence Scatter plan. They play another one, counter, wait around. They play 3-2, counter, drew a land. They play another one, counter. All right, and so here, I'm all out of counters, so I'll just play out my 3-2. I'm putting this guy on the bottom because it's pretty low impact, even though it's good against the creature decks. Again, my priority is just to dig to the things that matter in my deck, and this is not that at the moment. I'm going to keep the land on top because it does kind of get me 1 extra draw to Fires, and Fires does have targets right now to hit for the 2-for-1. They play this. I play this to keep up Fires. And then, so they swing with the 4-4, and this is how these play patterns can work even in defensive decks with this 2-1, right? They swing, I double block. What are they going to do, right? They can pump it. They trade their pump spell for my 3-2, and then I get the Conscript back. They don't pump it. Well, the team block kills the 4-4, and I get the Conscript back. Okay, so then here I draw. I'll just main phase while they're tapped out, kill this Root Walla. Again, they're on red also, and I think they have a small black splash, so the Root Walla can get more dangerous later. I'll take the opportunity to kill it. They send. Here I take 4. I'm not looking to double block here. Again, each death trigger represents an extra 2-1 for me as long as I have mana untapped. So I'm not looking to trade off, well, I can't bring back the Conscript. But hypothetically, if I had 2 untapped, then I would snap off that double block and just bring it back. Here, I have these guys. I'd like to keep up the Conscript mana, and I also want to dig deeper. So I'll Librarian, Scry 2, land goes to the bottom, Vortex goes to the top because it's insane. Here, I will double block. They have a trick, no problem. It just trades for this, and I get my 2-1 back, right? And then, so it comes here. I'll Urborg. Did I have green at the time? Yeah, so I kicked it. Getting back my 2 3-2s, play them out. More Scries, right? I'm just digging to things that matter. This is the game plan. And then here, I'll take 5. I'm at 18. Notice I've stayed very healthy due to them not wanting to attack into this Conscript or trade off with a Blight Pile, really. I'm happy to just take my 5 and have a better block up next time. Remember, my death triggers represent the 2-1s, so I don't want to block too much when I'm untapped. Here they play out a Badger, and cool, all our scrying paid off. We drew a Sheoldred. So here, I'm actually not too interested in just running the Sheoldred out. I don't have Shore Up at the moment. They could have like Bite Down or something for it. And my blocks are just awesome for the rest of the game, right? Because I have this Conscript, so I'm in no hurry to play this. I even with Bite Down, like, so here's my thought. If they have Bite Down, yes, I could Rona's Vortex. And if I had nothing else to do with my mana this term, I would play the Sheoldred and hold up Rona's Vortex. But also Rona's Vortex is an actual removal spell. I don't need to just use it as a bounce. And so I'm just trying to extract max value here, given that I'm not really under any pressure, again, due to the Conscript. So here I'm going to Scry 2. I'll keep both of these on top. I already have the main card I would have been looking for. And so here we have the Soul Tender, which is great value, also lets me recur Sheoldred, and I have a Flyer, which their deck is a little weak against, and again, just generically good card. Here, they're going to send, and I think the way I put these blocks in, yeah, I'll double block here, and I'll double block here, and the idea is by putting 6, I play around Gaia's Might on this guy. I don't care really which one they kill. By putting 5 here, again, if they use a trick, it's the same scenario we've been seeing. It trades 1-for-1 for the Librarian. I'll get the Conscript back. If they don't, then, you know, even better, then it trades for their 5-5. Here, they have a Terra Sunder for this, no problem. I still prevent the 5 damage and get my Conscript back and make the trade I wanted for the Badger. Again, they still don't have great blocks, and they're on 1 card now, and so now I'm happy to play out the Sheoldred with the Rona's Vortex. And their last card then is Bite Down, all Vortex to bounce their guy, and they of course draw a Fire Nado. So the game still goes on, and they send. Here, I don't have the mana up to get the Conscript back, but again, I have other goods things in hand and things that inevitably will end up trading off, so I know I'll get it back eventually here, and I just want to minimize the damage and get my value. So here, just block both, I'm good. Play out my 4-4. They play out theirs. Now I can play this out, and they could send and I would trade and not get the Conscript back, but they opt not to. Here, They've drawn pretty well here off the top, right? So they had Fire NATO, and now they have Guardian and Cavalier. Here I'm looking to scry, just hit, again, just more spells, good spells even. Send for 3. And again, this game kind of continues in this way. Just send for 3. And this was like the only last interesting turn, I think, for the game. I opted to send with this instead. They probably don't want to block because I can then it gives me a way to get the Sheoldred back. And this is very, very narrow, and I don't know if it was correct or not. But my idea here was that the reason I didn't want to send with the Lookout instead, I want to keep pressuring. I don't mind if this turns into a Sheoldred or if it trades even for the 1-1 because it gets a body off the board if they have the team pump. But I thought that the 1 extra toughness on this might matter. And so that was my idea. Also, if they trade anything, of course, I have an Amada, I'm getting 1-1s back. So yeah, I actually held the Lookout back this time. They take 3. They just send stuff. I just run out some, I don't know, generic blocks. Try my best not to die to anything, but I'm still at 13. And assuming these blocks work even in really any capacity, I get my 2-1 back from the yard and I make a bunch of 1-1s. So, and from here, I think the game's over and so forth. So here, eventually just get the Sheoldred back and yeah. So this was, I think, again, a pretty solid example of how good the conscripts are and how they play out if you haven't seen or played against them yet, or played with them yourself. And then one more example, I think it was this one. Oh, here. Against kind of this green domain pile. Again, conscript. And again, same thing. I had seen this person's deck already. I wasn't afraid too much of their turn 3 stuff. And so here I'm just happy to play this out. They kick it, I'll take some damage. And now I'm on Essence Scatter plans. I'll trade off happily, get my Scry, put fires to the bottom. I have no red source. Counter 4-3. And here I'm just going to do this main phase because I'm not really threatening a good block here if they have 4 mana. And if I hit, a lot of my green and red sources are tap sources. So I want to make sure that if I hit it main phase that I get to play them this turn so that I have the option to Outrider next turn if I want. Here, again, luckily I do hit the tapped blue-reds. And then they play out this dude and Hammerhand, which is scary, right? So now I'm taking 5 and I can't block. Here I'm just playing a creature out. They swing. I'll willingly take this 2-for-1. I guess kind of a 2-for-2, but I mean, Hammerhand sort of did its thing already. But yeah, I'll willingly take this double block and then tie up their mana for the turn, no problem. They kill both. I get the double Scry. I'll put land on the bottom, and then here another land on the bottom. And here I'm a Luxac, but again, this was kind of the idea of having all the Scries in the card selection. Now I have Sheoldred Shore Up, and now I'm just chilling, right? I actually, when I look back at this for this video, I was thinking about this, and I don't remember why I didn't block. They have +2 because I have Vortex up, but I think my thought was that I'd rather have Vortex to get an actual card. I don't mind if they take 2, and if they go for the pump, then I'll Vortex it. But I'd rather just hold the Vortex for later, and I'm not afraid of this 2-2 at really any point. And I'm gaining the life back here. They did play a Trampler, which does make things a little bit scarier. But from here, I'm doing okay. I'll kick the Urborg. I'm keeping up double blue for Shore Up and for Vortex, though, so I think I'm pretty safe. They send and enlist. I just bounce it at this point. Again, I'm not looking to take too much damage, and I now have like creatures that I can play back to the board. So I'm gaining life. They're getting drained. Drain some more. Play out this guy. Now they actually have to, they're at 6 now. They have to be worried about dying. So their attacks get a lot worse. I'm at 11. Sheoldred is a ridiculous magic card. They play a 5/5 trample and pass. Get the Sheoldred trigger, and I'm just going to send with both. I think even if my hand was completely face up, their best blocks are like something like double block the 5/5 and 2/2 on Sheoldred, and take 4, right? And they go to 2 life here. Anything else I think doesn't work because, well, I guess they could put the 5/5 on the 4/4 and then double block the Sheoldred, but then again, I could just shore up the Sheoldred, kill them both, have something back on blocks. They'll draw, go to 4, right? And I mean, they could swing for 5, but I'm now back at 13. Yeah, so I don't think they have really good blocks. They make the obvious ones. They don't know what my hand is. And I mean, for all their intents and purposes, I might be hellbent. But they do have to block both of these two. So they put the 5/5 here. I get to shore it up. And then this trades for one of the Root Walla or the Warbrute. And I'll let them keep the Root Walla, because if they're going to spend mana, it's their whole turn. So not afraid of that. Get back the Conscript. And then, yeah, the game just is more or less going to be over here. Send. They have removal, but it's fine. And yeah. So yeah, that was a draft and a couple game examples. I hope you guys found it interesting. If you have any questions or comments, you're of course welcome to get in touch with me on Discord. I'm usually in like the Draft Live Discord as Joe John. Yeah, thanks for watching.